Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it. I always like giving interviews. Interviews are fun for me, so
Yeah, we've been really excited for this one. Me and Cam have looked into the Mandela Effect, but we've not got too much knowledge on it. So obviously we came across your channel and we see that you're super passionate about it. So yeah, do you want to start us off with the basics? What is the Mandela Effect?
Well, the Mandela Effect, and I'm glad to define it because I feel most people have been given a completely wrong definition of what it is, and then they go around and they think that they understand it, and that's no fault of their own. That's because of the media and whatnot. The Mandela Effect, what it actually is, first off, the term is, in my opinion, just a crappy term for a way in which our reality functions. But I'll explain what I mean. So a Mandela Effect is when something in this reality physically alters, but all the way back to its origin point. For example, some of the many famous examples some people might be aware of, even if they haven't really looked too deep into the topic, would be the Berenstein Bears, which was a very famous children's book here in America. I don't know how big it was over where you guys are, but the Berenstein Bears is now the Berenstain Bears. So what that means, it doesn't mean that the publisher changed the book at some point, a decade ago and started putting out these new ones. What that means is even if you have the Berenstein Bears book, which you always had sitting in your home, if you were to go and check that book, it will now say the Berenstain. And this goes across there's probably millions of Mandela effects, but it gets much deeper than just titles of books and movies, although if that can retroactively change all the way back through fabric of time, physical matter, that's a huge deal. But we're not just seeing it with that. We're seeing it with the land masses of the earth, everybody's Bibles, which people hold near and dear to them. Like for instance, I'll just give one example and we'll get back to those type of changes later on. If I were to ask nearly anybody, and maybe you guys have heard of this, maybe you haven't, just give me the answer of what you always remembered it to be. And anybody that watches this later on, I want you to think aloud what you remember it to be. In the book of Isaiah in the Bible, fill in the blank. The blank lies with the lamb. What animal lies with the lamb in the book of Isaiah? Are you guys familiar with that at all?
I'm not well versed in the Bible.
I'm not.
Okay, well, I ask people everywhere, pastors, preachers, people on the street, lion and the lamb. It was the lion shall lay with the lamb. And now it's the wolf. So what that means is instantly people will say, well, that there's, so many translations of the Bible and men have changed it over the years. And I agree with that. I'm not denying that doesn't go on, or that companies and logos and brands don't change their names or their logos. Yeah, we understand all that, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if you remember the lion shall lay with the lamb, you won't be able to find that in your own Bible that's sitting in your house. It doesn't matter how old it is. It doesn't matter if it's been in your family for 200 years. Every single copy in the world, every translation will now say the wolf. So that's kind of my definition of the Mandela Effect. It changes it. So like one more example, famous movie, Snow White. Many people are familiar with the Snow White movie. Do you know what the quote was? What do you remember the quote when the queen would look in the mirror?
Mirror, mirror.
Mirror, mirror, yeah.
Yeah, now she's never said that. Now she's never said that. So if you take your own VHS copy from the Disney movies we grew up with and put Snow White in, she's going to say magic mirror on the wall, which is completely not what it was. I know that's not what it was. I know it was mirror, mirror. And in fact, the interesting thing about the Mandela Effect is there isn't this I use this example a lot because a lot of people think, oh, well, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. Well, it does. It's not like I'm telling you a story about me and 100 friends took like a trip and we went to a haunted house and here's our testimony. You have to believe this paranormal story. We're talking about something that's definitely affecting you, because if I walk up to 100 people and I ask them the same thing I just asked you, damn near 100, if not every single one of the 100 is going to tell me mirror, mirror, which has now never existed. And where are all the magic mirror people? Shouldn't the correct answer be up here and maybe a few people get it wrong? But no, it's like this. And then what we have, this is where the misdirection comes from the media. We have what we call physical evidence, residual evidence. It's physical evidence in this reality of the way things used to be. Because when the Mandela Effect changes something, for instance, mirror, mirror is now magic mirror and always has been. Well, it only changes it on the official thing, on the official Disney movie, right? All these times it's been quoted everywhere else and in all these different songs and parodies and skits. Everybody's saying it, mirror, mirror. You almost never hear magic mirror. That's the residual evidence we're talking about. T-shirts printed up. I even have a book. So some people will say, oh, well, it used to be Mirror Mirror before Disney got a hold of it, and then they changed it to Magic Mirror for copyright reasons. And it's like, well, no, because I grew up with it as Mirror Mirror on my own movie. I know it wasn't Magic Mirror, so that doesn't hold any water. But besides that, I can show evidence from Disney. I mean, I even have a Disney Snow White book here that's published from Disney. In the book, it says Mirror Mirror on the wall. This is clearly not a copyright issue. I've shown Walt Disney himself shortly after the release of Snow White, which was his first major animated film, and he is quoting it Mirror Mirror on the wall. Walt Disney himself. So something's changing in this reality. It's not false memory. They want you to believe it's false memory. Can people have errors in memory or whatever? Yeah, sure. We're not saying we have perfect memory, but it gets to the point where how many changes are going to come across and you're just going to keep denying and denying and denying and denying that something's going on. Because I could walk up to anybody and if they'll have an honest conversation with me, I can show that they're affected by at least 20 changes easily. I do it all the time. I mean, it's easy. Now, will they admit and say, oh, something's going on? Or no, most will just say, oh, I must have been misremembering and my memory sucks. And it's like, well, I didn't give you a multiple choice. I didn't give you any answers. I had you fill in the blank on 20 things, and on every single thing you gave, not only did you give me the quote unquote wrong answer, here's a piece of paper. I wrote down every answer you were going to give me, even though it's the wrong answer on this paper, because you're not wrong. You're not stupid. Your senses aren't failing you. Something's happening to this reality. And of course, there's a lot of theories on what that could be. We'll save that for a little later in the show. But yeah, that's my definition of a Mandela effect. I know that was really long, but it needs to be. And so if a company changes the name of a product or a logo, that's not a Mandela effect. That's a company changing the name of a product or a logo, and that does happen. Now, what's interesting is the people that say, oh, these Mandela effect people are just falling for a psyop, and it's just companies changing and blah, blah, blah. It would take them 2 seconds to come back and say, hey, Brian, here's where you're wrong about Fruit of the Loom. They changed their logo in 1975, and here's the old one, and here's the new one side by side, and you just did it. But they've never done that. They never do that because they don't even do any research into it. They don't even take 5 minutes to look into it.
So with the Mandela effect, does it constantly, do things constantly keep changing, or was there a point in time where it happened? Because I've always gone off the fact that it's after Mandela, it was when he died.
Yeah. No. So that's how it got its name, but people have definitely been talking about this taking place long before that was even a thing. And I've talked to people who have experienced some of these more well-known changes as far back as the 60s and 70s. And it gets a lot deeper than that too. So we see changes incrementally, 100% for sure. It's not all happening at once. Like, for instance, there's Bible verses that have changed repeatedly. Movies like Star Wars and Back to the Future, with Wizard of Oz, there would be a couple changes, but then a few months later, there'd be more changes. And we're constantly observing it and watching it. We see things change and then change back. We call that a flip-flop. So for me, there wasn't one jumping off point. And I know that's an important thing to bring up because people bring in different theories. Oh, was it a 2012 thing? Or did we come from a different galaxy? Or did we come from a different timeline or a different universe? Or is it time travel? For me, none of those things work because we see this incrementally happening here. Could one of those events have happened? Sure. I don't know. But after that fact, we're in a reality that's fluid and constantly changing.
So, one theory I heard is that the CERN project has when that started, that shifted us into a different dimension.
Yep, and I think that's the gatekeeping 101 as far as that goes. That's exactly what they want you to believe. And I can elaborate on that if you want me to.
Yeah, please.
Well, so if you read any of these articles about the Mandela effect, and they come up everywhere, they're all over the media. And like I said, they're all misrepresentations. What they'll do, it's clever the way they do it. What they'll do is they'll give you, say, like a top 40 list of Mandela effects. And for the most part, they'll give you legit Mandela effects. But all they'll give you is the logos and the companies and the brands. They won't touch the bigger things that we're going to get into because I think that's too jarring for people. But on top of that, what they'll do is they'll always try and leave you in the idea that it's false memory. And they literally, remember I just talked about the physical evidence, the residual evidence. I mean, some of these, I mean, pick a change. I have a playlist of 125 videos where I go through residue and everything on one change each video. It's endless, hundreds of years. I could piles and piles. If we sat here for 10 minutes, I could give you 1,000 new pieces of residue from mirror. Okay, it's absolutely everywhere. These articles don't even mention that we have any of it. They just leave you in a way to think it's just a memory thing with other people. They don't even talk about the residual, so they want you to think it's false memory. However, just like anything, now this is a spiritual awakening in my opinion, but they want you to think it's like a conspiracy. But just like with any conspiracy or anything, when you start to wake up to the realization that the official narrative isn't real, they're ready for you. They're ready for you with a bunch of rabbit trails and misdirections to go down. And in my opinion, the very first one on that list is CERN. Because in my opinion, this is a supernatural occurrence. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want you to know that that even exists. Mainstream science is against that. But if you do realize something's going on, guess what? It's our men and our machine and the mighty men of science that are causing it. And I think it's complete fantasy land BS in my opinion. I could be wrong. It's still on the table. Anybody that's willing to talk about the Mandela Effect in a serious way and wants to figure out what's going on, I would love to have the conversation. We could talk CERN, even though I don't believe it. We could talk timelines, whatever. The people that outright deny that this is taking place, that's what really bothers me. Because they're really just gatekeeping their own mind. And they're trying to convince themselves, gaslight themselves and others out of their own experiences and senses, which is very disturbing to me. Because in my journey of truth over the last 14 years, some of the main things I've learned is, first of all, don't live in fear. Second of all, trust your senses, your experiences, what you've observed. And now when people get to the Mandela Effect, they want to throw all that away because they think they know what reality is or what this place is.
Yeah, it hurts people's ego, right, to admit that there's something that they can't wrap their head around.
You nailed it, man. It's an ego thing with many of these people.
So essentially, with the CERN project being sort of a distraction, what they're trying to do is there's some esoteric reason or some supernatural reason why this Mandela Effect happens, but they don't want us to look into that because they don't want us to look up there. They want us to think, oh, man has caused this, man can control this, when that's not the case. It is something higher than us and something more powerful than us.
Exactly. That's exactly what I think, and I've thought that since the beginning, almost, pretty much, you know. And every year, even just the other day with this whole eclipse thing, you see all these people fear mongering, they're going to turn CERN on, and blah 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 blah. I'm just telling everybody, we're going to stay focused on the Mandela Effect today, but anybody that watches me, I talk about other things too, and you should not live in fear over fabricated nonsense that they're feeding you. And the fabricated fear has infested the so-called truth communities too, if you will. And they spread more fear. They live in more fear than the quote-unquote normies do. You know, and many use less discernment. They'll just share whatever fits their fear narrative. And every time, you guys, if you've been around for a while, you'll see that none of this comes true. I'll keep it safe so this can go on your YouTube channel. But all the things that people have told me is going to happen to me over the years, I'm going to die from this, that, and the other. 5G chemtrails. I'm going to be in a FEMA camp. Somebody's in the military is going to kick in my door. Blah 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 blah. Here I am. None of it has ever come to fruition. So I can't. And I used to be really into, because I seen through the fabrications really, really early, and how much is just a media scripted reality that we live in, and people believe is reality because it comes through the screen. So I spent a lot of time in these events and stuff, and we won't get into it. But the day in September was really my first big thing. I spent 5 years basically breaking that down, and then these other things. But it gets to a point, like in my journey, where it's like, even though I know it's not real, if I continue to invest my emotions and energy into it, the Matrix still wins because that's what they want. So I think the Mandela Effect is like a step away from that. It's funny too because people will be like, "Oh, Brian wants people to watch media and movies because the Mandela." No, I don't. If there's a Mandela Effect in a movie and I want to verify it, I can watch 10 seconds of it by taking it out and popping it in, or I can open a Bible and read a passage and see if the print has changed on the book. I'm not telling anybody to get into any of that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying about alternative media at the moment. It's as if something big's going on, which they don't want us to talk about too much. So something else, which is complete fabrication, as you just said, they push that out, so that gets all of us lot in alternative media talking about the second thing, not talking about the first thing, but the second thing's complete nonsense anyway. I've seen
Yeah,
it more
and
and more.
usually what they're doing is they're giving you different fear rabbit trails to validify an event that wasn't even real in the beginning because it was completely fabricated. But now you put your energy into, oh, it was this, it was, I'm not trying to be careful here, but oh, it leaked from this place, oh, it was a second shoot, and all this crap, and it's all, fairyland.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like the mainstream media push out fear tactics, but then once I moved away from the mainstream media and started looking into sort of alternative media and started changing my mindset, I realized, wait a minute, the alternative media are just pushing out fear. So it's just they just want you in a state of fear constantly. And the only way you can pull out from that is by just being aware of what information you're looking into and whether it's just a fear tactic or not.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm completely free of fear. I won't buy into any of it. I don't buy into fear. I don't give any value to the mainstream media. I give no value to politicians, religions, none of it. I'm just me. I don't need somebody to dictate how I think.
Yeah, that's a good way of going about it. So, what was the sort of trigger point or the first thing that introduced you to the Mandela Effect? Like, what made you think, shit, this is bigger than it seems?
So in about so in 2010 I started doing what I'm doing, podcasts, not on video at the time, but podcasts through my website, mostly all 9/11 stuff and then some of the events at the schools that they said were going down years later and stuff. But that brought me up to about the end of 2014, early 2015, and a friend of mine actually sent me something about the Barenstein Bears. And I kind of got the idea right away, and I knew because I used to have those books. I'm like, there's no way it was the Berenstain. But then it actually took me a couple months, because I was still heavy into other things. Took me a couple months, and then I was introduced to the world geography changes, and that's when I realized, whoa, wait a minute, because now we're really dealing with something heavy here. The land masses of the Earth right now are situated in the wrong position from where they always were, where I grew up in my entire life. And just like with any other with Mandela effects, I do have a criteria. A lot of people can be loosey goosey and, oh, if they don't just remember something the way they'll call it a Mandela. No, if I'm sure something was another way, then I will ask people, poll them without giving them an answer. I'm not calling something a Mandela effect unless like 8 out of 10 people remembered the way it used to be like I do. And then I go and look and, hey, here's all this physical evidence as well. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. So are you familiar with the geography changes at all? Because I would love to screen share as I explain this because I think that would be
Yeah,
very, very helpful.
I've turned screen
Yeah,
sharing on, so we should be good.
Okay, you should have my request now.
Yeah, we're good. We're on.
Okay, you see my monitor full screen? Yeah,
Yeah.
the Earth. Okay, so I don't know what other topics you guys are really into. I did glance at your channel a bit. I've seen you've had a variety of people on. Some of them I know, a lot of them I don't. I'm sure you're probably familiar with. There's probably many reasons to distrust photography and maps and things were given by the controllers. I'll at least say that. So I don't trust any. I'm not an idiot. I knew they didn't go to the moon by 2011. Broke that down. I have no trust in the space agencies or any of that. Now, however, let me make my point here. Just like I know that Bibles are reissued and there's different translations, I'm very well aware there's many projections of different maps, globes. I know sometimes they're done for the right reason, sometimes they're not. I also know that we're given tons and tons of fake images, and I have no reason to trust Google Earth. However, what I'm going to show here on Google Earth will also match exactly the globe sitting in your basement, or the map on the classroom wall if you were to go back to your old schoolroom. They're all going to match it. So what that means is when I present something here, if you remember it the way it used to be and the way I remember it, well, if the Mandela effect was just a psyop and they were messing with us, you could pull out that old global map and show us the land masses where they used to be shown. But you're not going to be able to do that. Now, I'll give you an example. If I was to ask you, gentlemen, where South America is located in relation to North America, and I know it sounds like a ridiculous question, what would you say?
South. Below it.
Just below. I
Okay.
remember it being below, but slightly to the right, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. Be just as descriptive as you can. And that's what I remember. I remember South America being below America, North America, and slightly to the right. Almost lined up, but just a little bit off. Like, I wouldn't say perfectly under, but a little bit. What direction does the Panama Canal run? The water.
Is it not a diagonal line?
It is sort of diagonal now. Now I remember it differently, and I'll show you in a minute. And I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to go to the map.
This is hard for me because my desk map is a map, and when I'm in calls and stuff, I'm looking at it, so I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this one you might not have caught your eye yet though, because it's a little unless you look for it. If I were to ask you, you're not looking at a map right now, right?
I'm not looking below now.
Okay. So if I were to ask you, and anybody watching this later on, describe the size and location of the island of Cuba in relation to Florida. Now I know you guys aren't from the States, so it might be a little different for you over there, but what would you describe Cuba as, like compared to Florida? Where is it and what's its size?
So Florida like sort of sticks out the bottom a little bit. Is it not?
It was like
Yeah, like a little bit further up, but quite a few miles out.
And how big would you say it is compared to Florida?
Tiny compared to Florida.
Tiny. Yeah, I would say tiny too. Now check this out. Ready? So now, in this current reality, look where South America is compared to North America. South America has completely shifted to the right. I mean, it's like 1,500 miles out of position.
Yeah, that's not how I remember it.
yeah, that's not how I remember it now.
The west coast of it is barely even lined up with the east coast of the U.S. It used to be over here, and because and so again, if anybody watching this, if you remember South America way more to the left, as we all on this panel do, but you think the Mandela Effect is a psyop, all you got to do is pull out your old globe, and then you should be able to show us, hey, look, here's South America where it used to be. They changed the maps and globes, but nobody can do that because every map in the globe in the world has changed. Now, on top of that, the tiny island of Cuba, this is what blows my mind too. Cuba used to be like a little island right here. Cuba is this whole thing now, and it's no longer just east of Florida, it's west of Florida, and it's blocking off this portion of the Gulf of Mexico, which it never did. So this is what really blew my mind about the Mandela Effect. Once I saw that this was happening, and I already understood that maps and all that are fake, but again, check any old map or globe, and you're going to see this. This blew some of my family's mind too. We had a Thanksgiving in 2017, and it's interesting because none of these Mandela effects are insignificant. So there's one with a character from Pokemon called Pikachu, and many people remember Pikachu having a dark tip on his yellow tail. Now his tail has always been all yellow. It's been Mandela affected. He's never had a dark tip on his tail. So this is really big for some of the younger generation. I get to my family's house, seen a little cousin of mine that I hadn't seen in probably 6 years. I walk in the door. First thing he says to me when I walk in the door, I know about Pikachu's tail. I said, oh, really? Right? So then we started talking with the whole family, and then my cousin says, tell him about Ed McMahon, which we'll describe in a minute. And it all got the conversation going, and then I started talking about geography. And my cousin is like, so you're telling me if we go and get the globe out of the basement right now, these changes are going to be on there? I said, go get that globe. And they did. And of course, every change was on there. Just like every change I'll talk about will be in everybody's Bibles. So that's what really grabbed my attention. Then I realized, like, this is like the biggest thing ever. The land masses of the earth are in the wrong place. Commercial airliners are completely different now. All sorts of crazy things in this reality.
Yeah, that Cuba one's definitely weird because it was a lot smaller. And then it looks like it's doing the opposite effects of what they said climate change was going to do.
Well, speaking of climate change, that's interesting because they used to tell you that the ice caps were going to melt because of climate change. And if you look at any globe now, the white ice cap that used to be on the top, it's not there. It's gone. Even if you have one in your house, you could go look right now. There'll be no ice cap. Cuba will be this huge island. South America will be way over here. Do you guys happen to have one in your house? I'm serious. Like, you should check it because it's gonna show exactly what I showed on the screen. Same thing as if you guys have a Bible, get it out during the stream because I'm gonna blow some minds, man. It's well, you guys aren't that familiar with it, but for people that watch this later, this is crazy. Have you seen the changes to do with the commercial airliners?
No, I've not heard of them. The ones I've heard of is obviously the Mandela one, the Monopoly Man, Pikachu one. I've heard of the book that you mentioned, and a couple others. Oh yeah, obviously the Snow White one's quite a big one.
Oh, this is going to be good then. So I want you to picture a commercial airliner. Like if you went to catch a flight, 5-hour flight, you're going to get on a jet at the airport, right? And again, it's going to sound like a dumb question, but like where would you say the engines are located in relation to the wings?
The engine's not below the wings.
Below the wings.
Oh, yeah. Like what do you, so like right under them? Under them?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you've got
you
like the
mean-
wings sticking out, and then you've got an engine like below like that.
Okay, perfect. And I agree. And this is what I remember too. And I'm going to guess anybody that watches this video will as well. I'm going to get a screen share again. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is residual evidence. So this is not claimed to be a photograph. This is from a video game for PlayStation called Just Cause. I think it might be Just Cause 2, one of the sequels for it. So yeah, so this is a, obviously a rendition. It's not a real photograph. A graphic designer that makes video games made this. So again, with the Mandela Effect, let me also reiterate, like when one of these things changes in this reality, like say we talked about a Mandela Effect, Barenstein Bears changed to Berenstain, right? Let's say I had a photograph though of that Berenstain book before it changed to Stain. The photograph's going to change with reality. So is any video. It's not going to remain. So I can't show you a photograph of what I'm about to explain to you. But looking at this video game design right here, is that basically what you remember for the location of the engines?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Spot on.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah, me too. So we'll just look at a couple more. Again, this is residue. This is the stuff the articles don't talk about on the Mandela Effect. This is exactly how I remember them. This is going to blow your mind if you've never seen this. Now I'm going to show you what a commercial airliner looks like now. And again, you could go back 30, 40 years, your whole lifespan. You could go and if you had photographs of yourself at any airport in your life and there's these jets behind you, this is what you're going to see. Hang on. Let me get this up. This is just so mind-blowing to me. Look at the location of the engines now. And I know people that might watch this are going to say, oh, this is BS. Go ahead and look yourselves, people. Go to the airport and look at the history of these planes. And other than one exception, this one Boeing 737 model exception, all of them are like this. All the 747s I grew up with, 757s, 777s, they all look like this with the engine way out on the front, dude. It's like hanging on by a bracket. I know this isn't a very high resolution photo, but anybody can bring them up online or go to the airport and look. It doesn't even look structurally sound. And that's all the commercial airliners in the world look like that.
Yeah, it doesn't even look like it's supposed to be that way.
No.
So what?
This is blowing
That's
my mind.
weird. This is weird.
You see, this isn't just about, movies and music. This is the type of stuff where it gets really deep. And we're not there yet, but even the human anatomy has changed. As we live our lives, our organs have moved and all sorts of things. I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing. But there's also, I do like to talk about some of the more common ones, like you brought up the Monopoly Man. And where are you guys? Are you guys in the UK?
Yeah, UK.
Yeah.
England.
So that's perfect. And I've done much content with people in the UK, many people in my community. I've had co-hosts from the UK and other countries, New Zealand and whatnot. And, the Monopoly Man one is great because, so many of us, I dare I say probably hundreds of millions of people around the world remember the Monopoly Man having a monocle, and now he's never had a monocle. And one of the biggest slaps in the face that they try and say is, oh, you're just mixing him up with the Planters Peanut guy. And so many of my friends in the UK are like, listen, I don't even know who the hell the Planters Peanut guy is, but we know what Monopoly is, So Monopoly, Fruit of the Loom. Are you familiar with the Fruit of the Loom? Mandela Effect?
No, I've not heard of that one.
Have you heard of the company Fruit of the Loom?
Yeah, the clothing company.
So what does their icon, their logo look like? How would you
Uh,
describe it?
there's some like grapes.
Is that a fruit in a basket?
Fruit in a basket. And that basket was called the cornucopia. It was like it's a brown horn shaped thing called the cornucopia. And now, in this reality, I'm going to show you this. They've never had a cornucopia in their logo. Yet we all remember it. Well, I shouldn't say we all, but so many people I know remember it. I'm going to show you what it looks like now. So this is their logo now. So anybody watching this that might be familiar with Fruit of the Loom, if you remember a cornucopia, and this is a Photoshop. This is what it used to look like. This is not on any real clothing anymore. There's some fakes out there. But when I grew up, this logo had this cornucopia in it, okay? But now it's never been there. Now it's just always been this fruit. And it's such a huge, obvious change for me. There's so many of them. So again, these are photoshops. These are not real.
Yeah, from
That's
people's
people in the
imagination.
people in the Mandela community made it to show, hey, this is what we remember it looking like. But not only that, this basket, as you called it, it's really called the cornucopia. And so many people with these Mandela effects, we have these matching anchor memories. And so many of us, well, we only knew what a cornucopia was because it was on this logo. That's the only reason I knew what that was. And and they try and tell us crazy things like, "Oh, you're just mixing up your underwear with images of Thanksgiving." And then there's one logo that they had in the past that has like brown leaves in the back, and they're like, "Oh, well, you just saw brown leaves and assumed it was a cornucopia." I mean, wow, that's quite a stretch. I'm pretty familiar with brown leaves. I've seen brown leaves before. You know?
Well, it's like with the Monopoly man. If, for example, if you was going to go to a fancy dress party or something, you would think top hat, big mustache, and the monocle.
Yep, absolutely. And he's never had a monocle. And that's such a big one because you know why? Because it's like the Mandela effect is so obvious once you finally open your mind because all these huge major accessories that icons used or wore are missing. Are you familiar with the American fitness guru Richard Simmons? Flamboyant guy did sweating with the oldies back in the day.
Mm.
Well, for people that might be, he was this fitness guy, and he always had a headband and wristbands on, and now he's never had a headband. The Monopoly Man's never had a monocle. There's a brand of cereal called Raisin Bran, where they had a sun wearing sunglasses in the logo. That he's never had his sunglasses now. There's a scene in a movie, Risky Business, with Tom Cruise, where he used to slide across the floor with a white shirt and sunglasses. His sunglasses are gone now. A lot of people are missing their glasses, which is interesting. Like, what does that mean? You know, take off the glasses to see like what type of messages are in these changes. People's names have changed. Spelling of words have changed. He is a huge one for me. And how old are you guys?
I'm 27.
I'm
Okay, you guys are
29.
pretty. Yeah, you guys are pretty young. So you know, with this one, you might have always been brought up with it pretty much the new way. But if I asked you how to spell the word dilemma, how would you spell it?
Dilema. Sorry, Dilemma.
So I'll just tell you what I remember. And I think some of the older people that watch this will resonate with this more, maybe. I remember dilemma being Dilemna. There was a silent N. Well, now that silent N is just a double M. So now it's MMA. I remember it being MNA. And in fact, many of us remember mispronouncing the word on purpose to remember how to spell it. So dilemma, even though it wasn't said that way, to remember how to spell it with the N. So there's a lot of that going on. What about, so there's a lot of like, and I'm sure this happens over in the UK too, but I don't, what's that?
With the word dilemma, there's no evidence of it being spelt that way in the past at all.
Well, I have some strong evidence, but you won't find it in a dictionary because that's the official thing now where you would look for the word, right? So every dictionary ever is now going to say MMA. Oh, but I've got some good evidence. In fact, I even showed evidence of a guy. There was this book that came out, and this is before the term Mandela Effect was ever even a thing. Here's another example. And it's supposedly this fiction book. And in this book, this guy is like running around in this action scene, and people are like shooting at him and stuff, and all of a sudden he blurts out about how he's going to wake up one day in a world where nobody's going to remember that dilemma had a silent N in it, and they're going to spell it MMA, and this is like 25 years ago. I've got some good evidence on that word. Yeah.
That's weird.
And yeah, dude. And as far as evidence, like, man, it's everywhere, because that used to be what reality is. So if we came from somewhere else and we came here and things were a little bit different, and that was the Mandela effect, a lot of people think that, right? We wouldn't have this evidence here. Not only would we not have all this evidence here, right? It'd be back there. We wouldn't have everybody's memories here of things the way they used to be, because it would have been over in the other reality.
Right, yeah, so it would have just been normal, yeah.
Yeah, if we came from somewhere else where it was always mirror, mirror, and then we came here, right, and it's magic mirror, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy, right? Well, I shouldn't be able to, if I walk up to 100 people and ask them, what did she say in Snow White? They, almost all of them, except ones that might have came with us, right? They're all going to tell me magic mirror, but that's not what happens ever. Nearly everybody remembers the way that it used to be, right down the line on a plethora of changes. Now, we don't agree on all of them, and we don't know exactly how that works. It has to do somehow with our personal interpretation of how we read this reality or whatever, how we pick up the frequencies of how we interpret it, I guess. But for the most part, we see almost all the same changes. There's always a few exceptions. It's really interesting, residual evidence. So there's a really, and I don't know if you have this over there. Do you guys have avocados over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard, okay, I'm going to ask you might not have this type, but have you ever heard of a type of avocado that begins with the letter H? It's a 4-letter word.
No.
No.
Just avocado.
I only know just avocados, yeah.
Okay, so I know this sounds weird, but there's a very famous type. In fact, over here at least, the most famous type of avocado is called a Haas avocado. And it was named after a guy named Rudolf Haas, Haas. Well, now, Haas avocados has been Mandela affected, as well as the guy it's named after. His last name has changed. Many people's names have changed. His name is now Rudolf Haas, Hass, which is very interesting because Haas, right? Think about the hoops people want to go through to deny something's going on. Like, we remember it as Haas, Haas, with this weird pronunciation. Over here in American English, I mean, you don't really ever put two A's next to each other. It's a very odd thing to do. So the idea that we would all do that in unison around this country, if that was never the way it was spelled and it was always Haas, like the word pass, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, so not only do I ask people this, including people like sushi chefs that are cutting avocados in my restaurant, all this stuff. Everybody remembers Haas, 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 Haas. Right now, this is still the case in many grocery stores here, and I keep doing it. So if you go to a grocery store and we're going to get one of these avocados, it used to be Haas. Well, if it comes from the company now and it has the sticker on it, it's going to say it the new way because it's a Mandela effect. It changed the official thing to Haas, right? However, in the POS systems, the computer systems for these grocery stores that have the barcodes and print you out your receipt when you cash out, I've shown like a dozen of them that still have it the old way in their computer systems. Same thing with the spice turmeric. Are you familiar with turmeric? Turmeric is no longer turmeric. It's turmeric now. And I mean, I literally have receipts on reality. I have receipts from grocery stores all around me that still think they're selling turmeric. Turmeric. But that's never existed now. Now it's always been turmeric. Turmeric.
And is that because these people would have typed it in sort of unofficially, so to speak?
Yeah, it's unofficial. It's different, the Mandela effect changed the official thing, but these grocery stores systems are outside of that.
So just nipping back for a sec to that plane sort of has blown my mind in a way, because what if I was to go, I don't know how far back it changed, but if I was to go way far back and watch, I don't know, a TV show or a movie which should have had the plane the other way, would that have changed?
That's a great question. So if you were to go back, and there are some movies, and here's the thing, movies can show some of the planes with the engines the old way, and a lot of the automobile manufacturers, their logos are Mandela affected, which we'll get to next. And you could go into old movies and see the old emblems in the movies, but it's not because the movies were preserved on video. It's because they weren't using a real plane or a real car in the first place. It was a prop.
Oh, so it's not unofficial.
It's unofficial, even though it looks official in the movie. It's a prop car. It's a prop plane. It's half a plane with a film crew on the other half behind the fourth wall and all this. It's not a real plane. So in those cases, there are a few movies where you see them, but it's because it's a prop. So you won't see, like, for instance, old footage of real planes taken off from an airport and see it that way. You might see it in a motion picture because it's a prop, and that will remain. Props will remain. Secondhand things done by people will remain. Drawings will remain. So here's a perfect example. I want to bring the Volkswagen one up because I can elaborate more on this point. Are you familiar with Volkswagen? How would you describe the emblem? What's the emblem?
VW
V and a W.
in a circle. V and then a W underneath.
And what's the relation between the V and the W? Like,
On top of each other?
yeah.
Yeah, one on top.
So I remember them on top of each other and merged together. Now check this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like touching, aren't they?
They're not touching anymore. Look at this now.
Whoa.
There's a huge gap. And this is a top.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, this is a top 10 Mandela effect for me. You know why? My first brand new car I ever bought was a Volkswagen Jetta GT 1997 off the lot. And the logo was definitely not merged. Now, if I go into my Volkswagen folder, because I have a ton of residue.
So my mum,
Yeah.
well, me and Cameron are brothers. So our mum, she had a Golf GTI back when we were kids, and she got into an accident. And I remember she just kept the logo for it. I'm pretty sure it wasn't split.
It wasn't split. It was
It
like
wasn't split at all, was it? I remember it.
No, because
She
she
used
kept
to
it
have
up on a pinboard thing. No,
On a pinboard. She pinned it up on the pinboard, so I saw it near enough every day.
And I'll tell you right now, if you can access that logo, if you guys have it in a box or anything, that logo is going to be split now. It used to look like it does on the right here. This is how I remember it.
1,000,000% it was. They do it together. Because I was a kid
Million.
and I used to play with the badge because you just pick things up and mess around with them.
1,000,000%. And now what I'll challenge you to do is next time you're out, and now you'll be looking for these things. Next time you're out, anytime a Volkswagen drives by now, you're gonna glance at the emblem, and every single time you're gonna see, it doesn't matter how old it is. The car could even be older than you, right? Because you guys are in your late 20s. The car could be 30, 40 years old, and even though you grew up at a point where it was like this, you won't see any of that. You'll see this. Now, you might see this on custom things that people put on their Volkswagen because they remember what we do. In fact, I have videos where I went to like Huntington Beach and I was talking to this guy at like this farmer's market thing, and he's making these like Volkswagen emblems out of wood and painting them, and he's doing it the old way. And underneath it, though, he has these stands that they standard that like came from some sort of factory, and they had it the new way. So I asked him on video, I film all of this. And I said, "Oh, I love your thing here. It's very beautiful, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Did you ever notice, though, like, isn't it weird that you don't ever see this on any of these cars, and all you see is what you have here on the stand? And you're doing this from memory." He's like, "Yeah, I love Volkswagen." He's like, "I did notice that. That is weird." He wasn't really getting what I was putting down, and I tried to explain it to him a little bit. Dude, this isn't the only one either. Like, check this out. So you probably haven't seen the Ford logo. Dude, think about the Ford logo. Before I bring it on screen, I want you to picture the Ford logo on the back of a Ford truck in your head. Okay?
Okay. The F's
And
quite a big swirly one, isn't it? Like the F and then O R. It's like cursive writing, right?
And so you can see Henry Ford's signature clearly does not have a curly thing here, and the O is closed. That logo changed. And here's what's interesting. So, like I said, photos will change. If somebody takes a photo, and I'm going to show another portion of this in a second. If somebody takes a photo with the Mandela affected item in the photo, the Mandela affected item will be changed in the photo, right? Check this out. Look at this photo, man. He's pointing at an emblem of his name that doesn't even match the way he signs it because it's changed on the vehicle.
That's weird.
I'll give you another example of this with the photos changing because this is huge. So, are you familiar with the Thinker statue by Rodin?
Yeah,
The man that's like
the guy.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I remember for the Thinker statue, and it's changed for me a few times. I remember him originally being like this with his fist to his forehead. He moved down and his fist is under his chin, and then there's been some other movements since then. But check this out. Now he's like this. He's got like a split finger thing under his chin, and now his right elbow is crossed over to his left knee, so he's like all contorted like this. But I remember years ago, maybe up to a decade ago, he was like this, and I want to show you something interesting to do with that. And I think you guys will appreciate this, even if you don't remember it the same way I do. Check this out. So I'm going to a screen share. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's doing the thinker pose the way I remember it. So this is how I remember the pose. And in fact, based off the thinker statue, they turned this into a bodybuilding pose called the thinker. Okay. Then we have stuff like this, which is interesting. Watch this. So this guy traveled. So now the thinker statue, I know this isn't the best high res, but you can see it's under the chin. And see how his elbow is coming across his body, like I was saying? But you have people in front of it, and there's many thinkers around the world. Well, he's got his fist up near his head. Now check this one. I'm going to show two more here. So you have this woman who, again, so she traveled all the way to see one of these statues.
Yeah, because that statue doesn't even look right.
Yeah, that one, his hand's more like you said, like split.
Yeah, and she's posed the wrong way, quote unquote, the wrong way. Well, she's posed how it was, is my postulation here. When she traveled here, just like that guy, they didn't pose the wrong way in front of the statue. This is how the statue was when she posed. The Mandela Effect happened after the photo was taken, so it changed the photo when it changed the statue. Now, I got one more example that you're going to be like, whoa, check this out. This is like a whole school field trip, bro. And look at, okay, again, the hand's under the chin. I know it's not the best picture, but it's under the chin. It's not up here. It's crossed over, okay? Look at all these kids posing in front of it.
This is so messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell is going on here?
Every single one of them is doing it on the head.
The old way, which has never existed, allegedly. And this is happening all over the place. Why? Well, because when they took the photo, it was that way. Why wouldn't the teacher here or the chaperone correct them and be like, you guys are all doing it the wrong, as if he would ever need to. Like, why would they ever all do it the wrong way in the first place like that?
This is absolutely crazy. What?
Oh, we're gonna even up it even a little more. So major artwork and statues around the world have changed. Some with very significant symbology, in my opinion. You guys are familiar with King Tut, I'm sure. The Egyptian pharaoh King Tut. You don't know who King Tut is?
Oh, King Tut. Yeah.
So I want you to picture King Tut's mask, right? His mask. What's on his mask that stands out as a feature to you?
The eyes.
What about what's on his head? What would you say is on his forehead? I'll say specifically on his forehead. Is there anything on his forehead? Okay. So I remember, as do many others, on King Tut's forehead, and this is a replica I'm going to show you. I'm not claiming it's the real one. I remember a cobra in the center of his forehead like that. That's how I remember King Tut, okay? Now, I could go through endless amounts of what I would call residue and show you different instances of creations of King Tut, even in different museums around the world, okay? This is how I remember it, okay? Cobra in the center of his forehead, symmetrical. Now, King Tut, in this reality now, and I'm talking American media here. We're not talking movies. We're talking an ancient artifact. And I don't believe any dates that were given, so I'm not going to put a date on it. I'll just say it's mad old, okay? It's an ancient artifact. I feel safe calling it that. And this is King Tut now. He's always had a snake and a bird. This is going to blow some people's mind that watch this. Even though you guys didn't really make it maybe resonate because you weren't really sure, there's going to be people that are going to watch this and go, there's no way. This guy is lying right now on this live stream. And then they're going to go and look, and they're going to find out every single thing I said. At least, you might not agree with me if it was a change or not, but the way I tell you it is now, it is. He has a snake and a bird on his head. All the airplane engines are hanging off the front of the wings. The thinker statue under here. Cuba's blocking the Gulf of Mexico. South America is about 1,500 miles over to the east. Verify it yourself, people.
This one just doesn't look right. It just looks... Because I couldn't resonate with it because I probably haven't thought about it when looking at it. But this doesn't look like it should have the bird on. just
What
going from
about?
memory.
Yeah, yeah. Just dude, never had a bird. It was never had a bird for me. And what about Are you familiar with the creation of Adam by Michelangelo?
The
It's a painting. I'll give you a hint. It's a painting where God is reaching down to man to
right, yeah,
provide.
when with the fingers touch it.
Could you show me the position of the fingers vaguely? Like,
Like their index fingers are touching like that, right?
yeah, perfect. So I remember what you do, like
Yeah.
this,
That is it.
at
Because
an
it's
angle. Yeah,
right.
I remember God reaching down at an angle like this, providing the spark. Now, I'm going to show you some residue first, okay? Not claiming this, so you'll obviously know that this isn't claimed to be the real thing. It's going to be a cartoon, all right? I remember God being up in the sky and his arm
Yeah.
coming down at like a 45-degree angle, like this, okay? This is base. So this is what we're showing here is like all this artwork is made based off of the real artwork, okay?
Yeah, but it's just not official, right? It's just they've
Yeah.
tried to copy it.
Yeah, it's obviously people's little jokes and spoofs, right? Right? Where do you see this? So, what this picture was representing, and this is on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, okay? Again, nothing to do with American media or a psyop. If you go to the Sistine Chapel now this is showing you like God providing the spark to man, right? And remember what I told you about men over God, and they want to promote CERN over the God and men over machine. Look at this now.
The level.
Yeah. And this is hundreds of years old. And now it's always been this way. That's a pretty different message now, right? I mean, now Adam's arm is even a bit higher. His wrist. And he's got this limp wrist thing going on.
Yeah,
Like,
the
what is
limp wrist
this?
it wasn't limp because it was predominantly placed.
They were at like a perfect 45-degree angle almost. Or, 40 degrees or something closer, like a slant like this,
What
dude.
the hell? This is weird, this one.
This is what the original looks like. This is the original.
That's absolutely mind blowing.
So, what does all this mean?
Well, in my opinion, first off, what it means is this reality is fluid. Obviously, if these changes can happen. I also think that this place was created for us, and we were given everything it needs, from plenty of land and resources and everything. And we're lied to about everything. They tell us everything's scarce, and they want to fearmonger us, and we're given this fake reality by the controllers in this physical realm. And I think the Mandela Effect is showing us there's so much more outside of that. I think that it is a training ground for whatever comes next after we leave this physical plane, because whatever it is going to have more supernatural occurrences and implications than right here, in my opinion. I think this really is totally a training ground for that. And I think there's more. I think there's a puzzle to be put together. There's messages. There's a lot of song changes. We'll talk about a few of those. Don't let me forget, because they have some very strong messages in them. Also, it seems to me that a lot of government entities and agencies and things like this that are full of fraud are having Mandela effects to their names and their events and things like that. For instance, do you know what the DEA stands for in America?
The Drug Enforcement Agency.
That's exactly what I would have said. And that's exactly what everybody that watches this is probably thinking. But that's changed from a Mandela effect. Now they've always been the Drug Enforcement Administration. The Center for Disease Control changed to the Centers for Disease Control. And I didn't see that change until shortly before the thing that rolled out a few years ago. But now if you look at the history of it, it's been that way since before I was born. The day in September that I talk about, there's a lot of changes in that. Here's one that's really mind-blowing. I got to be careful with this one, but you're probably familiar with that school event that happened in America, in Connecticut in 2012. We won't say it. And a lot of people are familiar with the father laughing on TV and all that. So his daughter's name was Emily. And I'm going to show you this. This is hilarious. You want to talk about a message. So let me get a screen share. All right. You see my screen?
Yep, Google.
Okay, so let's not use that trigger word, but we'll use the state. Emily Parker is now Emily. Look at her name. The Y changed to an IE, and now if you look at her name, what does it look like it says? Emily.
Oh shit. That's
Yeah.
messed up though.
Yeah, and I could elaborate more, but we're trying to be careful. But yeah, it's pointing out a lot of this stuff, in my opinion. Here's one of the biggest ones to do with the Bible for me, right? This is huge. So when the thing rolled out in 2020, I was very vocal about not people not being in fear of this nonsense. But shortly before that rolled out, there were a few changes that happened, like the ones I just mentioned with the CDC. But also in America, there's a thing called the HIPAA Act, and it's meant to protect your health privacy information. And of course, all of that went out the window in the last few years, right? People's stuff was really intruded upon. But there's an acronym was HIPPA, and the P that stood for privacy is gone now. The acronym is now HIPAA, and the word privacy was never in the HIPAA Act, which I find very telling. And then all this stuff starts to unfold a few months later. And just before the thing unfolded in 2019, 2020, there was a big Bible change. And that Bible change goes like this. And you guys might know this. It's in the book of Matthew. I'll have you fill in the blank. It's Matthew 18:20, where two or blank gather, there I am.
Two or more.
Two or more. Now, I've asked hundreds of people this, including people. I have videos of this too. I record all this, man. I'm at the beach. There's people selling Bibles, and they're out there being loud, and I approach them and I ask them this. In Matthew 18:20, they'll tell me, where two or more gather in my name. Where two or more gathered in my name, there I am. Where two or more gather in my name, there I am in the midst. Different versions had a different ending, but they were all where two or more gather in my name, which means where two or more gather, the presence of God will be there. That's where two or more gather, there I am. That's what that means. That now doesn't say that in any Bible in the world. And it now says where two or three are gathered. Now, well, three is a lot different than more, because that's a limit. That's a limited gathering. And then who were the first people to notably limit gatherings? Well, it was the churches. And then I even said they're going to use this Mandela Effect scripture to scare people. And sure enough, come August of 2020, so we're several months in now, Governor Holcomb of Indiana comes on TV. He literally came on TV like this, and he's like, addresses the people, and he's like, the Bible says where two or three are gathered, not 2 or 300. Stay in your house. Jesus would wear a mask, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, wow, this is getting deep. So this is deep stuff. This is much deeper than just a monopoly, man. Are we being foretold of these things that are, and being foretold through these other mediums, like through the Bible, through the music? I believe so. Have you heard of this singer called Jules? She sings a song, "Who Will Save Your Soul"?
Maybe if I heard the song, but
Yeah, well, it's a very famous song, and it would go, "Who will save your soul?" But now it says, "Who will save your souls?" with an S on there. It was never there before. Now it's a plural. The song by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, "Under the Bridge," it used to sing, "It's the city I live in, the city of angels." And he's filming it in Los Angeles, which is the city of angels. That's why it's called that. Now it says the city of angel in the song. And it's like, whoa, well, what angel? Here's another one, though, that's pretty big. It's a song called "California Dreamin'" by the Mamas and the Papas. It's an old song, maybe from the 60s, right? And there's a part where they get to a church, and like I pulled up to a church, and I went into the church, and I got down on my knees, and I began to pray. That's the line from the song. Now in the song, even if you own the album and you put it in, it says, "I got down on my knees and I pretend to pray," instead of "began to pray." So there's a lot of like kind of spiritual messages within these song changes. Even Bon Jovi. And Bon Jovi I grew up with, and there's a song called "Wanted Dead or Alive." And the hook of the song was, "It's all the same, only the names have changed." Now it says, "It's all the same, only the names will change." And then we're seeing people's names change with the Mandela Effect. Like crazy. All sorts of name changes. There's a famous preacher here. You'll notice it. You'll probably see a lot of people talking about him, even though you guys are over there. Televangelist. His name is Joel. His first name. He was really famous during Hurricane Katrina because he has a church in New Orleans. Are you familiar with this preacher? Well, his last name was Olstein. His name is now Joel Osteen. There's no L in his name anymore. And he's a fake televangelist. And some people say L stands for God. Well, now the L is gone from his name. Here's one you probably know, being in the UK. Jimmy Savile. You know Jimmy Savile?
Yeah.
Check this out. So, how do you spell Jimmy Savile? Spell his last name.
S-A...
Ville.
It was Jimmy Savile, but check this out now. Now, Jimmy Savile is now Jimmy Savile. Like, hey, he's so vile. Look at this, only one L now. He had an L taken out of his name.
Yeah, he definitely did.
This is a pattern we see with the Mandela Effect, where the L's are moving around all over the place. Other people's names have literally been split in half, and it's always been that way. If you check that, so Robert De Niro, famous actor, you're probably familiar. Look at his name now. Now it's Day Space Nero. LaToya Jackson, Michael's sister, her name is now split. La Toya is now 2 words. Yep. Then there's L's that are added. When I grew up, a famous rap group was called Belle Biv DeVoe. Then now Bell with 2 L's instead of 1 L. Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill used to be Mark Hamill. 1 L. He's now 2 L's. Sybil Shepherd used to be 1 L. Sybil Shepherd is now 2 L's. Look at this. Sybil Shepherd on eBay. Here's residue. People think they're selling Sybil Shepherd stuff, right? But her name has 2 L's in it now. See? This is the official. 2 L's, 2 L's, 2 L's. Her name had 1 L, though. eBay is a great place for residue. People will think they're selling things that now never existed. Of course, you'll see a lot of the new reality in there. But look at Sybil with 1 L, Sybil with 1 L. You'll see people selling autographs. Now, the autographs of these people have changed to correlate with reality. But they'll tell you, oh, this is a certified autograph and blah, 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 and they got it listed with the wrong name because the name changed. Look at all these single L's.
Some people are going to think it's not real because of the change.
Yeah.
What? So you mentioned about with the preacher that the L represented God. Is that what we're seeing here with all these L changes?
I mean, maybe. I mean, that's one theory that people put out there. You know, I'm just open to a lot of these patterns that we're seeing. So we're seeing the patterns with the L's. We're also seeing patterns with S's being dropped off products and names and being added where it didn't belong. Christopher Reeves, Sally Fields, both of them lost the S on their name. It's now Christopher Reeve, Sally Field. Bragg's apple cider vinegar, a very popular product, lost its S. It's now always been Bragg. I mean, some things have just disappeared out of existence, like the Sinbad Genie movie, Shazam. I mean, that movie's never existed now. I remember that movie. Not only do I remember the movie, now I'm not saying I watched it, but when that movie came out, Shaquille O'Neal came out with the Genie movie like 2 years later, and I thought, wow, what a ripoff. Did this guy, Sinbad, just came out with a Genie movie? Why do we have these 2 Genie movies now? But now the Sinbad Genie movie has never existed in this reality. Here's another one. Famous museum. Okay, go ahead.
Just going to the Sinbad Genie movie. What happens if you had that on video or DVD?
It's gone. It's disappeared from reality. Nobody has it. Not one person has been able to come forth with a copy. And not only that, if you go, this is where I hate things like TikTok. They totally muddy the waters, and there's people making all sorts of fake videos. And Sinbad himself made a fake video in 2018 with this site called College Humor to like recreate a scene of that movie. It's an admitted fake. He's admitted it after, and he was trolling us, okay? But people are still using that clip that's an admitted fake and like making these elaborate videos where they'll like open up a safe in their house and act like it protected a video from the Mandela Effect, and they'll pop this tape in, and it's a clip from that known fake from 2018. That's what people are promoting. But nobody has a copy of the Shazam movie. It's gone from existence, just like nobody has a Bible. Think about this claim I'm making. Nobody in the world, that anybody listening to this, has a Bible that says where 2 or more are gathered, even though you all remember it. Every single Bible in the world has been supernaturally changed. And there's actually thousands of changes in the Bible I'm not a Bible guy though, and I'm not gonna get in over my head on talking about changes I'm not personally sure of. So just like with the geography, it's probably 1,000 geography changes. I'm gonna stick with the ones I know are 100% concrete and I know I'm sure of. But there are plenty of Mandela Effect channels that do get deeper. There's Mandela Effect channels that only talk about the Bible changes. That's not my thing. But I have a few buddies that I would definitely refer people to if that's their thing.
So do you think? Sorry, go on, Cam.
What about with people in terms of? Obviously, I know people's personality change, but is there anything that relates to personality changes in terms of they're a different person? They're not the same person.
Yeah. This topic gets really deep. So all this stuff that I've been showing today, in my opinion, I can prove it. I mean, at least I can show evidence for it, right? When it comes to people changing and personal changes in people's lives, it gets a little trickier because now you have to get a little bit more into just believing other people. But once you know that this is taking place and you're talking to credible people that have had the other real experiences and been there with you, you know that you can trust their testimony a bit. Now, I've talked to people who have told me they've woken up and their husband and their wife is a different person, right? Is that true? It's on the table for me, dude. There's a lot of stuff that maybe I took off the table years ago, but is now back on the table, like NPCs, soulless people, stuff like this in this reality. Dude, all that's on the table for me. And here's another thing. There's been people that have died and come back. So you talked about the Mandela thing. So you're aware people think he died in jail and then he got released and the whole thing. He's not the only one. So for me, that doesn't really resonate either way. And I'm suspect of the whole story because that's where it got its name. Different factors can come into play. I'm not trying to discredit anybody that remembers it that way. I'm just suspect of the Nelson Mandela thing. However, I know for a fact the American comedian Louis Anderson died like 20 years ago. Okay. And then in 2019 or so, he was alive and I saw him alive and he looked like a demon to me. He's dead again now. Makes me wonder if when these people come back from the grave into reality, if they're a different soul. Or even not even taking it that deep, these people whose names have changed. Is it the same Jimmy Savile? Is it the same Joel Osteen? Is Mark Hamill the same Luke Skywalker that we grew up with on the inside? Is it the same guy? It's a valid question, man. I don't know. I look at this reality as, like I said, we're trying to learn from it and get ready for the next step. And it's also like a test. I look at it as kind of like a choose your own adventure book. If you're familiar with those, you would like read a couple chapters and at the end you could make a few choices and it'd send you this way or that way. And a lot of people just, they just read a book straight through and they don't make any choices, and we're making those choices. But within that choose your own adventure book that the creator laid out for us, I believe he purposely put obstacles, and some of those obstacles are going to be people pretending to be people like us. I'm open to it. I'm more open to it than I was a few years ago. I can't prove any of that.
Is that what you're classing as NPCs? Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, and people say, well, then that means you probably have an NPC in your family. Like, I'm going to take offense to that. And then I think about it, I think my father might be an NPC, bro.
Why do you think that?
Because he just 100% he's like a robot that just goes along with the script with everything. And he just seems to like these major things it just seems to be an obstacle and, dead end and trying to talk to about any truth or anything. And my dad's a stubborn guy and he's, indoctrinated and was a cop his whole life and the whole thing. So all of that comes into play for sure. But I am open to, I think that this could get even deeper than that,
It does definitely seem that way, that there's much more, and it's going to be very hard to discover, but it does definitely seem that there's much more to this. Definitely when you're going through all of the stuff with the L's that made Jimmy Savile stuff, and these the guy that you said came back, the comedian, like a demon, it does seem like, I don't know. It seems a bit crazy.
Yeah, man. And I would like to take 5 or 10 minutes and just bang through like a list of some, because I think that'll really help blow some people away now that we've explained it a bit. But I would love to fill my coffee. You think we could take that 5-minute break? One of them I was going to bring up to you before I even have to show you, I think it's interesting. And I just had a conversation with a customer at my work about this too, when I asked her if she knew what the Mandela Effect was. Your most famous museum in America begins with an S.
So I know it. Tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Smith.
Smithsonian's. Is that right?
And what's the second word? There's 2 words. Smithsonian. Do you know?
No, I don't know the second word.
Okay. Well, it used to be the Smithsonian Institute. Now it's always been the Smithsonian Institution. There's also another institute that changed to institution. Wondering what that means. The Brookings Institute is now the Brookings Institution.
Oh, did it 2 completely different things?
Oh yeah, man. An institute and institution certainly seem like 2 different things for me. An institution is like where you put crazy people.
Yeah, the loony bin, yeah.
Yeah. So check this out. I'm going to show you a few more. I'm sure you're familiar with Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing we've seen with the Mandela Effect. So check this out. Another thing we see with the Mandela Effect. I talked about the L's and the S's. There's also a thing with dashes. So Kit Kat is a famous candy bar. I don't know if you have it in America. I mean in the UK. But Kit Kat used to have a dash in it. There's no dash now. See, there's no dash. There was 100% a dash in Kit Kat. This looks ridiculous to me.
Yeah, it was a really small, tiny little square, right?
Yeah. And now it's never been there. Again, for people that still aren't grasping what this is, I know you guys are getting it. But I'm telling you, if you have a Kit Kat in your freezer from 30 years ago, not that you probably do, but if you did, or a wrapper of any sort from them, there's not going to be a dash on it. Now, the reason I'm showing you that is because it's a pattern. Here's another one. You ever heard of Etch-a-Sketch?
Yeah,
the magnetic thing.
Yeah, so Etch-a-Sketch used to have dashes as well. There's no dashes on Etch-a-Sketch anymore. There was dashes in between the lettering here. I had this. I know there was dashes. This looks ridiculous to me. Well, now I'm going to show you where dashes showed up. Check this out. Beavis and Butthead, right? Watch this. Look at Butthead's name.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's hyphenated now. It's got a dash in it. It
never
had a dash.
100% had never had that. I've never seen it with that.
Never. And this even happened in a recent interview I did. I told the guy that. He's like, I got the DVD something. He went and checked it, pulled it out on the stream, and of course, the dash was there.
So click on images. Let's have a look at the where they put the graphics.
See? Butt dash head. There's no way he was butt dash head. There's a famous toy store in America, in New York, that was featured in the movie Big with Tom Hanks. You might not know what it is, but it used to be called FAO Schwartz.
Oh yeah, is that the one with the big keyboards in there?
Yes, it is. But now it's FAO Schwarz. The T is missing. However, this isn't the only example of this. So this is a German name. For whatever reason, there's a ton of German name changes and German-related Mandela effects, which I think is important. Because, again, a lot of people say, oh, this is just an American thing. No, not at all. And I guarantee if you spoke other languages, you'd be learning about Mandela effects in other languages. I don't speak them, and I'm not going to learn them for other people. Do your own research, right? So are you familiar with the books, the Peanuts books with Charlie Brown and those characters?
The Peanuts books?
Snoopy.
Yeah, Snoopy and Charlie Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who the author is? He used to have his autograph on the bottom of every book. I'll give you his first name and his middle initial. Charles M.
I don't know.
Well, people watching his name was Charles M. Schultz. And his name has also changed to Charles M. Schultz. Yeah, hold on. That's not giving me. No, hold on. It's the T that's missing. It's giving me the wrong search result. This is him. See, now he's Charles M. Schultz, no T. He was Schultz. There was a T in here. It was like this. Just like FAO Schwarz, a German name, just like his, the T's missing now before the Z. Okay? Here's another one. Are you familiar with the famous German rocket engineer that was brought into NASA? Von Braun is his last name.
From
Nazi. So do you know his first name?
I've just been reading Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, it begins with a W.
Was it Wirtz or Warts?
It was Werner. So it was Werner von Braun, and now it's Warner. There's this weird H in here that was not there. Here's another one. So there's a comet that comes by allegedly every 80 years or so. Do you know what that comet's called? Begins with an H.
You're testing our knowledge here.
It's okay. So it used to be called Halley's Comet,
Okay.
named after a guy named Edmund Halley. There's also a band called Bill Haley and the Comets. More on that in a minute. Bill Haley and the Comets, based off of the comet. Okay, but the Halley's Comet is now Halley's Comet with a short A and a double L. Again, L's moving all around with the Mandela Effect. Very, very strange. A couple other ones I wanted to talk about was, let's see. Okay, people's accessories, right? Are you familiar with the comedian Gallagher? He used to smash the watermelons.
What year was that? Years.
Oh, I don't know. It's probably a while ago, but he was famous. He had suspenders. His suspenders are missing. Smokey the Bear used to have suspenders holding up his pants. His suspenders are missing. God, there's just so many. Where else did I want to go with this? Well, do you have any questions you want to ask me?
I've got one. So from everything that you've sort of taught us today, because you've opened my eyes a lot wider to Mandela Effect than what I'll be honest, initially I thought it was just a few comics and the Monopoly Man and a few things like that. But the more you've spoke today, the more I'm sort of thinking how do you think this ties into the simulation theory? Because what it seems like is definitely when you was talking about the things that took place in 2020 and then those changes happened, it was, if you look at it from, say, there's a piece of code which is sort of navigating us, and for certain stuff to take place, they might need to change the code, which then changes everything else. What would you say the relation between this and the simulation theory is?
Okay, so we'll start it like this, right? I'll tell you right off the bat, I don't believe we're in a simulation. However, remember I talked about earlier that some of the other theories, they just don't work because like incremental changes and flip-flops, like if we came from one timeline to another, we talked about that earlier. So those don't work for me. Now, although I don't like the simulation theory, I do see how many aspects of the Mandela Effect would work within it. So it's definitely on the table. I know a lot of people like it. A lot of people I know like it. A lot of people don't like it. But I will say this. I've seen the clear push from the mainstream to push you in that direction, including people that I know are liars for these scientific institutions that have pushed a bunch of already known lies. Those same people are telling you that you live in a simulation, so I'd be very wary of it. That's what I'd take on it.
Yeah,
It
I was
seems
very
like more of the
wary of
same.
it as soon as Elon Musk spoke about it.
Exactly.
That's when I was a bit like, probably
Yep,
correct.
exactly. And he's one of the people I'm talking about. Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse, these people are all pointing you in that direction. Same thing with Gordy Rose and the D-Wave computer. Same thing like the video that come out at CERN and the guy's got the Mandela sign and all that. That's all intentional. They want you to go down these ways. The normie's not going to see that and say, hey, the Mandela Effect's real. And, they're not, but for the people that are in this mindset, okay, you think something's happening to this reality? Well, you're inside our computer. It's CERN doing it. CERN's ripping open the space-time continuum and finding the God particle and recreating the Big Bang, and it's all nonsense, in my opinion.
So do you think the ones sort of that are controlling the world, or at least attempting to control the world, have more information on this Mandela Effect than what we know? And do you think they can manipulate it?
Just following on with Cam's question, just adding a bit more to it. Do you think they have the power, or they have some knowledge where they can manipulate the Mandela Effect to work to their advantage?
I don't think that they can. I think that they're terrified of it, and not only that, to fast forward it a little more into what I think it is, I think it's the creator of this realm. I think it's, if you want to call that God or a life force or whatever, that's what I think it is. Again, I'm open to the other ideas. Maybe it is a guy behind a keyboard and we're in a simulation. I don't believe that, but we can definitely always have that conversation, of course. My opinion, though, it's the creator of this realm, whatever created this place, giving us that wake up call, training us for the next level. And in my opinion, they have zero control over it. However, we know they control the internet, the media, the misinformation. It's easy to misdirect people. And they certainly have the surveillance and the algorithms and everything. So when something does change, oh, you can bet your ass they know about it before we do. And they can prepare to get ahead of it, right? That's what I think. That's what I think their involvement is. Although there's more than that, because they intentionally put out not only these articles, but fake evidence and all different things to muddy the waters. They're very clever about how they talk about the Mandela effect. That's why a lot of people that are so-called in truth communities and whatnot, they have a lot of trouble for many reasons. And one of them is, oh, well, the media wouldn't talk about it if it was actually a real thing. And it's like, well, the media talks about all this other stuff that you guys look into, but they just misdirect you. They're doing the same thing here. Why can't you see that? Like, and again, I'll always go back to the same point with these people, and I'll be like, but you know it was mirror. You just told me. You just told me C-3PO was always all gold. You just told me Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia. Like, you're going through this. You remember what we do. And some people might think I'm like too abrasive or whatever, but I don't care. I got to light a fire under people's ass to wake up. And when I point out that you're Mandela affected, that's not an insult. I'm just saying, hey, you're going through what we're going through. People are going to tell you you're wrong, but you're not wrong. It was that. And by the way, here's like 800 years of physical evidence of this particular change. You're welcome.
Yeah. So with the research that you've done on, I would say, like the past and the present, what have you got anything that you feel might take place in the future with this? Will things get... Look, I'm looking at it from, I'll just tell you why I'm asking this question, because I'm looking at it from a point of view now is when you're looking at, what you talk about, Monopoly, Pikachu, a lot of what we...
I see two Mandela effects in your background, but continue. We'll talk about that next.
We'll go over them in a minute. So these are, I wouldn't say like relatively old, but they're in the past. But today, with where we're at with the internet and the communications and the amount of information overload everyone has, surely in the next, say, 10 years, if these Mandela effects are taking place, there's going to be an absolute shed load of them all over the place.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is coming into a problem now with the advancements, like everybody being able to use AI art and probably soon AI video and all this crap. We're going to see the pool of evidence get so polluted. So people's discernment really has to go up when they're talking about Mandela effects, because people are going to report things as Mandela effects that aren't, or like for instance with the Simpsons stuff. Every time an event happens, people post, "Oh, the Simpsons predicted this," and they post these images, and almost every time they're not real images from a Simpsons episode, right? It's just they're muddying the water. Recently with that thing with the boat, and people have this AI art that looks like a real Simpson. But it's like, go back and actually look for the episode and verify that they played that on the air before you post this crap. We're going to see a lot of that with people posting Mandela effect evidence. Now, I'm very careful not to do that. I'm not going to say I've never slipped up in my life, but channels like myself, we are very aware of that. We put discernment first when it comes to the Mandela effect. There's a lot of people that just throw shit at the wall with any topic. So of course you gotta be careful. And there are people that will just claim something is a Mandela effect if it differs than what they remember. But I like to make sure that the masses, this is what the masses remember, and myself. And then, by the way, here's all the evidence for it.
Yeah, because there's the mainstream, then there's the alternative media, and there is also the hoax tribe as well. There's a lot of people out there that love to chuck hoaxes out into the mix.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing too, like remember I talked about Louis Anderson, the comedian that was dead for me and came back. So not only, and this is another reason I think it's titled the Mandela Effect, even if Mandela did die in jail, like some people remember, I find that one to be very split. Even if he did die in jail, right? Here's the problem, like those type of Mandela effects where people died and came back are the hardest to prove. You're not going to find all these residue articles of their original death and all. Like, it's very, 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 very hard. And then what do we have on top of it? Celebrity death hoaxes. So people will remember, oh yeah, that guy died 15 years ago, and it's like, well, did he really die 15 years ago? Was that a celebrity death hoax article that you read and it stuck with you? So I recognize that this goes on for the people that deny the Mandela effect. I know that that's something we have to deal with, but I'm sure about Louis Anderson, and a lot of people are sure about a few different of these death ones. So that really does go on. And let's make sure we talk about my biggest Mandela effect before we go today. We don't have to go yet. I just know in a little bit. I don't want to forget that.
So if I wrote something down, like somebody died in my diary,
it'd probably remain.
It would remain there.
Probably. I can't say 100%. Some handwritten and hand-drawn things have changed. People tried at one time to like mark geography changes by putting like physical markers and outlines and things like that on their maps and stuff like that. And those things tend to, sometimes I've heard that those have moved. I haven't really experienced it. But for the most part, your handwritten notes will remain. Even some of your computer notes. People have sent me computer documents from their hospitals that they worked at that showed HIPAA spelled the way I remember, nurses that watch my show and stuff like that. So there's residue in their hospital computers, just like the grocery store and stuff like that. So for the most part, your handwriting is going to remain. And I think almost any artwork that people do, I mean, there's beautiful artwork of Volkswagen logos everywhere, the old way. Those remain everywhere. There's beautiful depictions of many different Mandela affected things that remain. And I think that's on purpose too, because the creator knows that people are locked up in this material realm and all this crap. He doesn't want to change the human expression in people's artwork and stuff. He's going to tinker with these other things like this Hollywood crap and these government entities and, stuff like that.
Do you think it's a message from the creator? A little hints?
Oh, yeah. Well, 100%. The strong message that this place is much more than the physical. Much more. A lot of people still don't understand that. And it boggles my mind. It's like, well, what do you think happens when you're 80, 90 years old and you're not here anymore? Like, you think the light goes out? They'd love for you to believe that. That's what people like, Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse and these guys would tell you. You're dead in the dirt, you're done. Well, that's not the case. I actually think that we have to get to a certain level to be ready to get out of here, right? So let's just say I'm spiritually awakened enough, supernaturally aware enough of whatever we're going through here that I'm ready to get out. But Joe Schmo over here who denies his reality and won't accept any of these changes, well, he's only 20% of the way. So when he dies, he's going to have to come back until he's 40%. Come back again until he's ready to get on out of here and go to the next phase. That's kind of what I'm thinking now. Of course, I can't prove any of that, right? That's just speculation. But for me, the Mandela effect is the biggest thing ever, but it's not the be-all, end-all of truth. There will never be a be-all, end-all. The journey keeps going. Every time I come to one of these huge things, there's always more. But as far as what I am experiencing now and have experienced, it's the biggest thing ever. Obviously, I don't know where we're going next, what happens when we die, but we're talking about it now, right? But I can only talk about that so much because I don't have any experience to back it up. I just have some ideas, Mandela effect, I got tons of experience, man.
There was a video I saw, and you're probably going to want to debunk this because I think I saw it on like Instagram or something. And it was, do you know Britney Spears? And have you heard about the one with her skirt being patterned but then plain? Yeah. So this guy had this old phone from like way back when.
Oh, I got a video on it already. I made a video on it.
Oh, did you? Did you debunk it completely? Is it?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and explain the video for your audience? But then I'll tell you.
So yeah, he's got an old phone where he's recording the video of her when she was dancing, and I think she had the pattern on, and then when he took the phone away, it was no pattern. And because the phone was that old, he was implying that it was like a
portal to look through.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple videos on this. There's actually another video that goes around also where a guy supposedly walks through a bedroom doorway with the Barenstein book and it changes to Stain and Steen back and forth.
Oh yeah, I saw that one too.
I'll show you my video on that where we'll actually watch it in a minute. It's like 4 minutes long. But let's talk about the other one you mentioned. So this is the shit I'm talking about. The viral crap that people make that's fake. First off, if video editing and video trickery is the simplest thing. I mean, it's so simple to fake those videos. Now, besides me just saying, hey, it's simple to fake those videos, I'm going to tell you what he would have to do to even impress me at all with one of those videos. have a second phone following him that's holding that phone, right? So the second phone can be live streaming. And while that second phone is live streaming and looking at what he's seeing through his phone, the person holding the second phone with the live stream, I want them to take prompts from us in the live chat so I know it's really live and not a pre-recorded video. And I'll be like, hey, move your hand this way, whatever I'm going to say, right? I want that proof that that's really live going down. But we don't even need to do that because by looking at his video, I can tell you there's two things in there that completely debunk it. So in the videos where he has a few videos like that with the phone where he's supposedly walking around, he's looking at Mandela affected products, and when he looks through the phone, it shows it the old way. It's simple video fakery. And do you remember we showed the Kit Kat? I'm going to go back to the Kit Kat because this comes into play here. So I'm going to bring Kit Kat back up and take a screen share.
Kit Kat definitely had a dash, because if I was to write Kit Kat out, I'd write it out with a dash.
Yeah. So here's the Kit Kat, right? So this doesn't have a dash. You see this package?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get it bigger. Hang on. Okay. Okay, this is the package now, and it doesn't have a dash, okay? In that guy's video, he shows this package with a dash, right? However, this font was not used back when that thing had a dash. It was old school like this, you know? It was. So he's using the current font and photoshopping a dash on it and trying to show a past reality. Now, there's even more that I can definitely tell you that it's fake because it's got a fake Mandela effect in there, and he's not aware of it because he's not deep into the topic like I am. But there's a soup out there called cup o' noodles, okay? It's an instant soup where you pour the boiling water in the cup, in the foam cup, and then 3 minutes later you can eat the soup. So a long time ago, the Mandela Effect community, and many people maybe still do, we're calling that a Mandela effect. But that was an actual case of a company rebranding. Okay, so the company actually, the official record now shows in 1993, they went from Cup O Noodles to Cup Noodles. And I, on my show, have shown an ad from the early 80s or late 80s, a television commercial that still exists that calls it Cup O Noodles. Mandela Effect debunked on that one, right? And this guy goes to a cup noodles in the grocery market and tries to show you that his phone with the Mandela Effect fakery is bringing it back to the old reality when in an instance that's not even a Mandela Effect at all. Yeah, so that's just fake BS. Now I'm gonna show you the Barenstein video that I made about the portal because there was that video going around, and I'll bring it up to show people. And I think it's actually
he's walking through like a doorway or something, isn't he? Into a different room.
Yeah. We're gonna take a look at it. Yeah. So here's my Odyssey channel. By the way, anybody later on, if you're looking for me, Brian S. Staveley, Staveley, on basically every platform. So when you go to my Odyssey, you can find all my videos.
Have you got links to all of your platforms on your website?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's one page on my website. You can share the one link and people can find everything there. But if you go to my Odyssey, okay, all the videos, newest to oldest, there's like 2,000 videos here. But Odyssey has a search feature for those that don't know. For the channel, you hit content, and then you can actually search the channel, and it works very well. And I misspelled that. Oh, here it is. Look, here's my video. There's a Mandela Effect portal in my bedroom I made. Check this out. And let me see if I have his video here. Okay, I'm going to try and play his video first, so let me just bring that up. And I'm not going to play his whole video, but we'll play like 2 minutes of it so people get the idea that haven't seen it. Yeah, I think this might be it. Yeah, this is one of his other videos. Okay, here it is. So this is his Berenstein Bears video. Guys, we're not going to watch all the dialogue, but watch what he does. He's going to walk through this doorway, and you're going to see the book change from stain to steen. So he's claiming that when you walk in his bedroom, it's like a Mandela Effect portal that, you know, shows you things the old way. So let's take a look.
It's just an old book. It's something my brother and I used to have growing up. And I started to look on the internet about this crap, and some weird stuff going on here with this name, Berenstain Bears. So I had this book, again, it's my nephew's, but I had this book in my closet when they came over. I wanted to give it back to them. I planned on going out there to see them. And I dug it out, and I noticed that the Berenstain had said Berenstein in that room. But I come out here, into just the normal other part of the house, and it says this. So, just so you know, I'm not crazy. I'm going to show you.
Let's do it, pal.
Pass through this doorway. What happens? And it's fucking weird. All right. It happens when it gets in the room.
All right, so see, now it says Steen instead of Stain. The E is changing to an A. Now it's an A when he comes back out, and it's an E when he goes back in, okay? And people share this as, you know, oh, this is real, this is proof of the Mandela Effect, but check this out. So I got really sick of this video going around and being sent to me, and it happens often. So I made a video. So I done like 100 shows with one of my good friends, Karen B. We had a show called Unveiling This Realm, and one night I told her, I said, hey, listen, and she knew the deal about the video and how easy it is to fake videos, and I said, I got to address this Barenstein Bears thing tonight, and this is at like 4 in the afternoon. So before we went live at like 8 or 9, with just coming up with the idea and then producing and making this video, this is what we made, and check this video out. What? Remember those videos going around with the guy with the Barenstein book in his room, and it would change? A lot of you guys are talking about it lately. It's happening here. And I didn't do anything different than normal, but something crazy is going on. This laundry room, there's some weird things happening here. I have this Barenstein book. Yeah, look. Barenstein. I still say Steen. But yeah, Barenstein. But when you go in this room, look at that. That's crazy. And back out. Craziest part about this is that this is a fake video. When we walk into the laundry room, book's not changing. Look. Berenstain. Video editing. Let's not fall for edited videos as some sort of portal. So this video is completely fake. We wanted to do this to show you how easy it is to fake this crap. No, that guy doesn't have a portal in his bedroom that shows you Mandela Effects things the way that they used to be in the past. So, and a big shout out to Karen B, because she's the one that edited the video. But also, we did this on a whim's notice, literally a few hours before the show, and we had it ready for the show. So with a little more time, we could have made it look even better. I mean, if we even just took a full day to produce it, it would have been less shaky. It was shaking a tiny bit, but you can clearly see how that guy could have faked this video the same way that we did.
Yeah. Well, I do video editing as like a bit of my day job, so I know that you can put a flow into it, so it picks up where you're flowing, and it will flow with you with the book, with the right path. Okay, well, we've not got too long left, but you have mentioned that you've saved your biggest Mandela Effect.
When I grew up in school and all that, I was told this thing I'm going to talk about. I was told about something else. I was told that the first major foreign attack on U.S. soil was Pearl Harbor. And then when 9/11 happened, the narrative was this is the second major attack on U.S. soil, and the first was Pearl Harbor. Now, in this reality, there's this whole thing called Black Tom, which I'm going to already know you've never heard of. Nobody's ever heard of it until I tell them. And it's pretty crazy because check this out. Of course, there can be things in history that we didn't know, smaller things in war history. There's so much that goes on, right? But this is much different. So in 1916, here goes the story, which there is now like video and photos of and all sorts of crap. But in 1916, 2 German spies came through New Jersey into New York Harbor, and blew off 1 million pounds of TNT in what they're calling the largest non-nuclear man-made explosion in the history of the world. And in this explosion, all the windows in Lower Manhattan were blown out. It would have registered like 5.5 on the Richter scale. It was felt in Philadelphia, and 5 people were killed and 120 were injured. Nobody's ever heard about this. This is New York City and 1 million pounds of TNT. And not only that, this is where it gets even crazier. So the explosion damaged the torch of the Statue of Liberty. And it damaged the torch so bad that nobody's ever been allowed to go in the torch since. But I've spoken to people that have been in the torch. But it's impossible in this reality now because of that attack that was inserted into this timeline that nobody's ever heard about in the busiest city in the country with 1 million pounds of TNT. Nobody, everybody I talked to from New York, nobody knows about Black Tom till I tell them. 1 million pounds of TNT. Statue of Liberty damaged.
Now nobody. 1918, did you say?
1916.
1916.
So,
So it wasn't
over 100 years ago. Over 100 years ago.
Yeah, not even that long ago. As we're going to go off how far back in history that we do talk about now.
Nobody knows about it.
That's insane. So when have you managed to identify when these changes took place? Like when the Mandela Effect came into
there's some you can kind of nail down a time frame, but most of them you can't. But some have some sort of specific evidence that can show you, in my opinion. Like there's a company called Procter and Gamble. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, P&G.
All right, let me bring that up on the screen real quick. Let me show you this. Procter and Gamble used to be spelled like this. Procter. But now Procter is with an ER instead of an OR, so it's Procter and Gamble, right? But in my residue here, when I go in my Procter and Gamble folder, I happen to have here a boatload of patents that they filed, okay? And in these patents that they filed, see this one's dated 2014? They filed it as the Procter and Gamble Company, the way I remember it being spelled. But however, when it was issued a little bit later, look who it gets issued to. It gets issued to the new reality version of them. Now, when you start to go through more of these patents for them, and you look at some of you look at the dates, you can see that it seems that somewhere in 2015, this one's a 2015 one, right? Somewhere around 2015, that's when this change took place. Because see, again, they applied as Procter, but when it came out after December of 2018, it's issued to this company, right? But when you go back and look at the older ones that aren't around 2015, they're all the old way and issued to the old way. Like,
so why wouldn't none of these ones have changed?
I don't know. I don't know. Some of it, some things are like, so this isn't like their labels on their products. This is within the patent office. Why hasn't all this changed? I don't know. Maybe the creator is leaving more clues for us. Maybe because they're uploaded scans of offhand, secondhand things. I don't really know. But look at these dates. This one was filed on 1968. 3 years later, it was patented, right? Assignee, Procter and Gamble. Okay, it has it the old way. And if you keep going through the older ones of these patents with them, you're gonna find that again, it goes in as the old way. Procter, OR. Okay, but all the ones around 2015 or later, they come out with the new spelling. So with this one, I think we can nail down a date a little bit. And again, here's one from 1972, right? And why am I even able to show anything with this spelling? If the Mandela, you know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. So like, for instance, the Houston we have a problem is a flip-flop, right? So there's a huge flip-flop. We should talk about this before we go because this is a huge aspect here. What's a flip-flop? It's when a Mandela effect changes something and then it changes back to what it originally was, right? So the movie Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks, the famous line from it, Houston, we have a problem, right? So that actually got Mandela affected. And it started saying, Houston, we've had a problem. It went to past tense. Now, this is where it gets really crazy. So it went to past tense. People in the Mandela Effect community started talking about it. You know, conversations were had, videos were made. Then the movie changed back to the way it was. Houston, we have a problem. All the conversations that people had about the original change, gone from existence. But we remember them. We remember having the conversations. But then this is where it gets even deeper. And I have a short video breaking this one down. So when Houston, we have a problem changed to Houston, we've had a problem, past tense. And we're like, no, we remember we have a problem, right? Parade magazine and a few other really big things came out, and they called Houston, we have a problem, the biggest movie misquote of all time. So what they're saying is, no, it's always been Houston, we've had a problem. You guys are always just misquoting it, right? But then it changed back. And those articles still remain. I have 3 of them where they're calling Houston, we have a problem, the biggest movie misquote of all time. But it's literally what the movie says right now because it changed back. And not only that, those articles started coming out around 2011. So before people in the Mandela Effect community even picked up that there was a change, they were rolling out the disinformation in 2011 on that change. So that movie had to have changed as early as 2011, if not earlier. On that one, we can kind of nail down a date.
Wow. That one's weird.
Very weird.
So how often do these flip-flops take place? Is that not common?
Not that often. There's a few, but that's the one I'm really rock solid on. Other people will talk about a few different ones, and I do believe that there's more. But I don't think the flip-flops are that common at all. They're kind of a rarity. And the Apollo 13, I think everybody in the Mandela Effect community would agree that is the biggest and most obvious flip-flop that there is. And I will die on that hill that changed. We all witnessed it change, and I have proof that it changed. Check out I have a Mandela Effect short list. Let's bring that up. I know it's starting to wind it down, so let me just show people where my Mandela content is, if that's cool with you.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so obviously YouTube is what most people use. It's the easiest. I do multi-stream to every platform that I'm on. So YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and I upload it to BitChute and Odyssey. Okay, and you can find all my videos, even the deleted ones on Odyssey. Obviously, the most action takes place on my YouTube channel. And if you want my Mandela Effect content, let's take a look. So if you go to Mandela Effect short videos, this is the golden goose right here. This is where you want to go. And on this list, I have 124 videos as of right now. Look at, here's my Black Tom video, right? Here's the video on the Matthew 18:20, geography, King Tut. We talked about a lot of these, right? Here's other ones we haven't yet. Back to the Future, Mr. Rogers, Lion and the Lamb, Creation of Adam we talked about, right? On and on and on. And each video I break down the effect. It's not too long like my live streams, 25 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. It all varies. But that's a great place to go to get some of my biggest effects and changes. That's where I really, really break down the ones that I think are super huge and important. But also,
reality loves to play.
Whoa. When you first get to my channel, there's a list called Dose of Reality Show. I put every video on this list, and the newest ones are near the front. So this was this morning stream. This was a couple days ago, last week, blah, 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 blah. And you could go through, and there's like 1,500 videos still on here. And I also do interviews where I interview people on their awakening journey. I think that these are some of the best videos. People love these. If you want to see me interview people, I've interviewed about 90 people in the truth community on this playlist. And then my Mandela Effect interviews, like today's show, after I put it on my channel, it will end up on this playlist. There's about 50 videos on it. And his Bible change videos. All of these are pretty much on my short list as well, but I broke it down for people that want to just look at Bible changes. And then here's my stuff in California out during the last 4 years. My shows with Karen B, personal Mandela effects, activism events, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's all on my channel right there.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you, Brian, for absolutely blowing my mind today.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep tonight.
Yeah, man, and poke around at that short list, you guys. You should really poke around there and look at things that you would know one way or the other, and just click on the video and see what I might be showing in it, because I think I'm going to blow your minds a lot more. And those are great to share with people. So if you see something on that, oh, my friend will know about this movie, or my friend will know about this Bible change one way or the other, that's a good thing to send them, because it's more digestible than my live streams. But my specialty is my live streams. I'll be live this weekend. Like I said, I'm live a couple times a week, and I stream for 3, 4, 5 hours. I take phone calls on most shows. Some shows I bring people up on video and stuff like that. So
Okay, cool. I'll pop on and say hi to you in the live chat.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
couple on your shorts list there, which I just saw, which I'm gonna check out when we finish here. I think the Undertaker one and the Gordon Ramsay one. I've not heard of that one. So.
Oh yeah, awesome. And there'll be a link. I'm sure you're going to leave it. But if you go to the Real News Online, which is my website, there's not much going on there, but I have all my resources there. So if you go to the realnewsonline.com and just click my links, you could find my links to every platform. But typically, if you just search my name, Brian S. Staveley, Staveley, you could find me anywhere from Facebook to Twitter, Rockfin, Rumble, all of it. And of course, I have multiple YouTube channels. Make sure you sub to backup. But when are you guys putting this up? And then I'll wait a few days and put it up on my channel. And I think it would help if you audibly told people where they can find you, because people will watch the replay on my end. And of course, I'll leave your links. But what's the name of your show and stuff?
It's Alt-ernative, so alternative with a hyphen for now, unless it changes. Yeah, we're primarily we use YouTube, Spotify. Aaron's probably better with a list of where we're on.
Yeah, YouTube, Spotify,
Rumble.
Rumble.
Well, just come and find us basically on YouTube. And
Yeah, we primarily use YouTube. We are on other platforms. Check out the website as well, www.alt-ernative.co.uk.
.co.uk, yeah, we're UK based. Yeah, we're happy we're on our website. If anyone wants to come and speak to us on our show, you can just fill out a form, and we're talking to many different types of people with everything strange and wonderful. So,
Yeah, we try and host a podcast and keep it like as open and as free as possible, and let people just express their opinions. And yeah, we just want to ask questions and listen to other people's views on the world, and we want to try and find out the truth like everybody else does. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Cool.
This has been
Well,
great,
thanks for having me on, man. It's been a good talk. I appreciate it, man. And just let me know when the video's up.
Yeah, I'll shoot you an email, and then we'll be back in contact for part 2, because I've got some other questions for you on different topics.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right, thanks, guys.
Great.
Cheers, Brian.
Cheers, Brian.
All right,
Bye,
guys. Thank you.